We just got an intel drop for Reckoning, the final DLC in Black Ops 6 Zombies, and in this, the developers were talking about different parts and things that were happening in the map, talking about things that mainly we already knew about, except expanding further on them, and we will get into that too, but there are a couple things that were really interesting, maybe even teasing a super Easter egg in Black Ops 7 Zombies, and we'll be getting to all of that throughout this video, but you know what it is, everyone's excited for this, so show me how excited you guys are by letting me know down in the comment section below, and also dropping a like, subscribe, and even the bell. But with that said, let's get into this intel drop. Now, the first thing I want to talk about has to do with a new movement system they introduced in this, which this map does have a lot, but to really understand this, just a little backstory, which isn't that important, but whatever, is that for this map, we know it's going to be 3 towers, and all of them are going to have a bottom level and a top level. Like, there's going to be pretty good separation in between those two. And we've seen a lot of movement that they showed us in the past. We've seen teleporters, bounce pads, parachutes, but none of those have really explained how we're going to get from the bottom of these maps to the top of them. But finally, that's been explained to us because we're actually going to have some ether elevators that are going to take us all the way from the bottom of these towers to the top of them. And they actually look really cool, and this is kind of an underrated thing because something that Treyarch has been criticized for recently is that they don't zombify things when they bring them into zombies. But this one's actually really cool because they didn't just bring us a normal elevator, we actually have an ether elevator that we just fly through and get to the top, which I think is really cool and is a nice little touch that I could very much appreciate Treyarch doing for sure. Now, another thing in this is actually that we see Uberklaus again, and we've seen him a couple times already, but we've only seen him in his big chunky form. But something that was told to us in the blog post is that when you defeat him in this chunky form, he actually goes into his next form after that, and in his next form he's actually a lot more nimble and just kind of flies around and shoots from his wrist. And that's what we see in this, is that he's a 2-stage mini boss. It's not just a 1 stage like many of the other ones. It's kind of similar to maybe the boss from Die Machina. If you guys remember that, you would kill him in his first phase and then he'd split into 2 for his second phase. So it's something like that, except we'll see if how much more difficulty he is in the second phase, if at all, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, a little thing to pick up here is actually when they were showing a little bit of gameplay of the map in third person, the developer just playing it, something actually pops up on screen, and I don't know if they're just like spoiling an Easter egg step or what's going on here, but if you look at the screen right here, it's kind of hard to make out, but what it says is that there's a hard drive zombie, and what that could be, I mean, we'll probably find out when the map comes out. I don't know if that's going to be for an Easter egg step, a side Easter egg, a pack-a-punch quest, or what. It could be a lot of different things, but that's a thing. So when you're Easter egg hunting when the map comes out, you know, keep an eye out for a hard drive zombie. Then they actually bring us to the new security camera trap, and it's actually interesting because they do kind of spoil it, which I don't appreciate, but they do say we actually upgrade this trap multiple times, and I think we could get a good idea of how it gets upgraded, because when we look at the panel right here, we could see a couple different symbols that aren't lit up, and I think as you upgrade it, you get these different abilities. Now, as for what these could be, I mean, we see just an arrow with an explosion behind it. Maybe that just makes the explosion that the camera shoots a bit stronger. Then you see something that looks like an expansion thing, which probably means that it's just going to have a larger explosion. And then finally we have like the death symbol, you know, skull and bones, and maybe that just means it kills it faster. Those are my guesses. It could be something else completely different here, but you know, that's just my guesses for now. But then we get into our wonder weapon, another situation where they kind of spoil too much, but they actually tell us that in the form that we saw in the trailer was its default form, where it just shoots and does an explosion and picks up a zombie there, drops it, like that's its regular form, but it can be upgraded into 2 different forms. And the first one is going to be this blue variant, and this blue variant, as the developers explain, is a chain reaction of explosions. And what it looks similar to me is kind of maybe like the energy mine fill upgrade. It kind of looks similar to that, so that's interesting. But then we have the green upgrade, and what they say is that it will blast into an area of damage radiation, which I think from what we see in the little gameplay clip actually looks pretty similar to the Ray Gun Mark II variant from Shattered Veil, except it looks like what that one should have been, because that one in Shattered Veil was pretty bad because it was kind of like a solidifier KT4 effect, but it activated randomly and never where you really wanted it to activate, and also the little splat on the 4 that would kill the zombies was actually kind of small. And it seems like they just fixed all those problems, and that every time you shoot this one, it will always have that little splat on the floor, and it's actually going to be pretty big. Now, hopefully it kills infinitely like we saw the one from Shattervale do, but again, we will have to wait and see. But currently right now, I'm feeling like the green variant is going to be more powerful than the blue variant, but we'll have to wait and see. But then the final two things I want to talk about are two quotes that we heard from the developers in this video. And the first one was this, and what he said is, "Everything you have done quest-wise has led you to this." Now, there's two ways to interpret this. Maybe he's not actually talking about the quests themselves, and he's just talking about the story, and this is going to have a big payoff for the story. Obviously, it's a DLC 4. But to me, he words it in a very specific way, that it is everything you have done quest-wise has led you to this. So I don't know if I'm just reading too much into this, but does this sound like he's talking about a potential super Easter egg, something that we still haven't had confirmed in this yet, and we're all just crossing our fingers is a thing? I mean, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see, but I think that potentially could be what he's talking about. Now, another developer actually says something else, and he says, "The events of Reckoning will set the stage for things to come." And what this is obviously talking about, I don't think there's any questions about this, is that they're talking about Black Ops 7. So they will be setting up Black Ops 7 in Reckoning, which is something that I honestly didn't think they were going to do, because I thought they had too much on their plate already. I mean, just think about everything they have here. They have the Forsaken, or the Sam AI, Sentinel Artifact, Rick Toffin, potentially even Samantha from the Dark Ether, Panos, whoever he's talking to in the Dark Ether, even Rick Toffin's son, who we think is also in the Dark Ether. Like, they have a lot of things they could possibly do here, but another one of those is potentially setting up for Black Ops 7. So, you know, they have a lot of things to do in this map, and I feel like with the storytelling, they might actually need to do a super Easter egg just to get it all told in one map. But we'll have to wait and see what they choose to explain here and build on in this map, and what just gets pushed to the side for another future game. But regardless though, that's going to wrap it up for this video. And as usual, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, show some love to the channel in any way you can. I very much appreciate it. But regardless though, we're getting closer and closer to the drop of DLC 4 in Reckoning, and I am so excited for that, and I know you guys are too. But regardless, that's going to happen for me. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.